You haven't placed your Necronominus pre-order yet? Well, neither have I. Let's figure this thing out. DORKLAIR! Welcome to another DORKLAIR collecting video. This time we are going to be looking at the Necronominus wave as sort of like a overall look at the whole wave as we get ready to place our pre-orders, because I know a lot of us tend to wait to the end so that we can like save up our money and plan and budget exactly what we want to order. But also, when this pre-order ends direct, the retailer pre-orders are going to open up for the next few months. And it's good to talk about that a little bit. So before the direct pre-order ends, knowing a little bit about your options can be good. And we'll talk about comparing the direct versus the retailer pre-orders. One thing we're not going to do is we're not going to go highly detailed into each specific figure. There's been plenty of that done already. I really should have done a specific video for that, like a recorded video. The only one I do have is the DORKLAIR episode 200, which I think was like the middle of November. So if you go back into the podcast playlist and go back to middle of November, DORKLAIR 200, you'll see a thumbnail with that on there. You can go watch that video if you want to see like more in-depth detailed figure by figure look. This is going to be more of a holistic look at the whole wave, pricing, comparing the pricing that's going to be available direct to the pricing that's going to be available from retailers. And hopefully I can keep this video relatively short because these things tend to get really long when I do them, and that's not ideal for me. So let's get into this thing. So right up front, the order end date for the Necronominus Wave Direct from Four Horsemen Studios is Sunday, January 15th at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And then probably the next day, Monday the 16th, the retailers will open up their pre-orders, and those will be open for quite some time. Oftentimes, those stay open right up to release. This is a wave that is probably going to ship in early 2024. So this is a big wave with a lot of new tooling. Just be ready for a wait on this pre-order. And so I'm going to look at this from a tiered perspective, the standard figures, the deluxe figures, and then the oversized figures. So there's sort of like three tiers in this one. There's 4 standard figures. You have Sir Gideon Heavensbrand 2, Sir Adalric, Sir Elijah, and Maxilius. So those are your 4 standard figures, and the price point on each of those is $37. So $37 when you order those direct from Four Horsemen. And again, that pre-order ends on the 15th. So those are your 4 standard figures. All 4 of these are on the 1.0 type body. However, all 4 of these are pretty much top to bottom brand new molds. So they're compatible with a lot of these bigger barbarians, the orcs, the knights, the original knights, right? The not the skinnier knights, but like generally like, Sir Owain is one of the more recent knights that was reissued. But those are the 1.0 figures, the original body type from Mythic Legions, by far the most popular body type, and that continues here, all 4 of the standard figures being the 1.0 body. And here's just a quick look at the figures without their cloth goods on. There's a lot of great new cloth goods here, but these don't necessarily have to be solely cloth good type figures. You've got the knights with their cloth goods off. Sir Adalric, actually, that's his torso. That's not a cloth torso. He has a cloth skirt, but not a cloth torso. But they didn't do a picture of him like without the skirt or whatever. One of the updates they did add recently is that these 2 knights, Sir Gideon and Sir Elijah, both have loincloth pieces on there because they didn't have those before. There was just nothing there underneath the cloth goods. So this adds a little bit of variety for, army building or whatever you want to do with them. And then I'll look at Maxilius without his robes, which is just a straight up full bare skeleton, which I've been hoping for a long time in this line. And that is a very welcome addition. Again, all of these are 1.0 compatible figures, meaning the slightly bigger of the 2 6-inch body types. Next up, we have the deluxe figures, which range from $45 to $60. And this includes Terpiculi, which is a monstrous skeleton type creature. Then you have Beluelith, the Beastmaster, I guess. Pretty much a loaded figure right there. That is the sole 2.0 figure on the slimmer body. So if you've seen the females, you've seen the elves, the goblins are also on the 2.0 body. This is the 2.0 body type. Then you have the Undead Builder Pack and Necronominus himself. And for price range, the Terpiculi is 45, Beluolith is 50, the Undead Pack is 55, and Necronominus is 60. Remember, I'm not going individually through all of the photos of all of these. I'm just talking about the whole wave in general. So I highly recommend going in and exploring if you haven't done so yet over the past 2 months. Then, do it. Like, explore these. Give yourself a few days to look at all of the stuff. For example, the Undead Builder Pack has a ton of stuff in there. It's like almost 2 full figures if you add up all the parts. So there's the pricing on the deluxe figures. And then into what I'm calling the oversized or the larger scale figures. These are the ogre scales and the horses and whatnot. There is a single ogre scale figure that is a whole new knight in the ogre scale. And again, I highly recommend you checking out the photos because this is one of the figures that has an alternate head. A lot of the good guy characters have a skeleton head because the storyline goes that Necronominus's weapon can like bring back the fallen good guys from the battlefield over to the undead side. So there's some, various head sculpt additions to these things. And so this is Ukzak, the ogre scale knight. And the direct pre-order price for Ukzak is $65. And then we have the 2 horses. The first horse is Bishop, the white horse with all of that regal knightly tack on there. And you have the full skeletal horse. This one blew me away. The full skeletal horse Conibus, that is Necronominus's horse right there. And again, these are both $65 in that same price range as the ogre scale Ukzak. These horses are fully compatible with all the other horses in the line, including the skeletal horse, I believe. Finally, there are 3 accessory packs: a knight's weapons pack, a skeletal hands and feet pack, and a knight's hands pack. And the prices on these are $20 for the weapons and $14 each for the hand packs there. And that's the entire wave, which if you add them all up together, just those individual prices, you get $601. But the all-in price, if you just like order one of each and they have a special bundle of all of those together, which is also probably usually, fingers crossed, like usually this happens to be the fastest way to get figures because these all-ins come in pre-boxed, pre-ready to ship out, and they just slap a label on and they go right out the door. So usually that's the fastest way to get them. That kind of didn't happen last time, but I do expect that to keep happening again in the future. It's just the easiest way for them to ship things out. And the bundle price is $560. So that's a really good deal. It's essentially $41 less, which is a little bit more than the price of a standard figure knocked off at the top of the price. So you kind of get like a free figure if you go all in, which makes sense, especially if you want every single figure. If you only want like 1 or 2 figures, or you just want like a whole bunch of a specific knight to army build or something, then the all-in might not make sense. But for people who are like, I just want one of each, this is the way to go. And finally, there is one more item that is available to pre-order, and that's a 2-pack with Necronominus and Conibus, the horse. And what they've been doing for every Horseman wave is offering this discounted bundle with the 2. And this is the only way that you can get them as a pack. So if you want like this beautiful display box of the horseman and his horse, that's something that a lot of people keep carded or keep on in the box sealed, then this is the only way to get it. Retailers will not have this specific item. So if you want it, make sure you get it. If you add up the price of Conibus and Necronominus, it would be $125, but this 2-pack is $110. So again, you get a little bit of a deal when you order the 2-pack or the bundle. And for the second half of the video, I do want to talk about the difference between pre-ordering direct, which again ends Sunday the 15th, and ordering from a retailer, which begins Monday the 16th. And there are some interesting differences, especially for new collectors to be aware of, that can help sway your decision-making process one way or the other. Generally, like my default suggestion is just order direct, put the money up front and just order direct and just wait for it. That to me is the best way to do it, but it might not be the best way for everyone. So let's first of all talk about the differences in price. It is more expensive to order from a retailer, and my prices here on the retailer side are estimates. They have not officially revealed the prices as of the publication of this video yet. So these are my estimates. It might be a little bit different, but it'll be around these numbers in terms of what it's going to cost to order from a retailer. Some of the really big ones are Big Bad Toy Store, Empire Toy Shop, Mallfish Collectibles. Dorkside dabbled in it for like a second before they went out of business, but there's a lot of other smaller retailers as well, especially if you have like a local shop that's a approved retailer. Look into that. You can go on their website. You can look up the different approved retailers and see where they're located and see if there's one near you or something like that. But lots of available different retailers, from small little shops to huge Big Bad Toy Store. And the individual figure prices are set by Four Horsemen Studio. There's going to be differences between, like, some of them will offer free shipping or like $4 shipping flat rate, or some of them might not charge tax in your state depending on the size of the company, and little things like that can make differences, and they could affect how you maybe pre-order. And I will go through just like a checklist or list of questions to help you make this decision. Okay, so the price differences are the $37 standard figures. Typically, when they are available at retailers, those are $50 or $49.99, somewhere in that range. Nowhere near, it's not going to be $45 or $55. It should be right at that $50 or $49.99 price point. So those are $50 each. And then the deluxe figures, it can be kind of difficult to predict. But remember, you had the direct pre-order prices of $45, $50, $55, $60. And I'm estimating them to be $60 or $70, depending on how they go with the prices, or maybe $65 and $75, or maybe $55 and $65. I don't know. But I expect to see somewhere in that range, in the $60 to $70 range for these deluxe figures. And then for the three $65 oversized figures, I'm kind of anticipating maybe $75 or $80, depending on how it goes, but probably not too much over, like, $79.99 or something like that. So I'm just putting $75 here for my calculations, just to go on the lower side, on the lower estimate. But that's what I think the prices will be there. And the accessory packs are usually like a slight bump, like a $12 accessory pack might be $20. So I'm saying like the $14 ones will be $20, and then the $20 one might be like $30. And if you recall, the all-in when you order direct is $560 plus shipping and possibly plus tax, depending on where you live. The retail price, when you add up all of the figures together, is about $750, $755, somewhere in that range. Might be a little less or a little bit more, but that's kind of my prediction, my speculation on pricing. So you're talking about nearly a $200 difference. One thing is for sure, that when you order direct, you're definitely paying a calculated shipping cost. So that could add up, especially if you're far away. If you're on the West Coast or you're international, it could be a pretty pricey thing. But the retailers, some of them offer just a flat $0 shipping cost. You just pay the price of the figure and you get it. Also, some of these retailers are small enough where they just don't have to charge tax because they don't have a big enough sales volume in any individual states. And so you're going to just get that flat $755 or whatever the individual prices are for those figures, and that's it. So make sure you're checking the cart and like adding things in and checking the prices and experimenting with the direct pricing to figure out how much of a savings. It's almost always going to be a savings direct, but sometimes the savings aren't big enough to justify paying that much up front. And to help you with the decision, I've made a little bit of a checklist or like list of questions to walk through and to just kind of help you decide. One thing that I think is important to understand is that the pre-order price, the direct pre-order price, is essentially a discount on the retailer pricing. So let's just talk in terms of standard $50 figures. $50 is the price of the figure. If you want a discount, you can order up front and put your money up front. If you don't want to put any money up front, there are retailers where you can order from them for the standard MSRP of $50. I think some people want to have their cake and eat it too. They demand that they are entitled to $37 figures without putting any money up front. And I mean, like, you can wish that, but that's not the reality. The reality is that's the pre-order discount when you order direct. And when you order direct, you got to pay up front. Sure, you can demand change and cry and whine about it, but I have a feeling when the time comes where they're just dropping figures in stock, they're going to be $50 and they're going to come in stock as $50 and there won't be a pre-order. They'll just be like, here it is, kind of like the Figura Obscura line. Anyway, aside from that little tangent, let's get into the comparisons and the questions that go along with direct versus retail. So first question, are you okay with paying up front? If you're not okay with paying up front, like I said just a minute ago, just go to a retailer and pay the retail MSRP, and you'll be able to find plenty of retailers like Big Bad Toy Store, for example. You don't have to pay anything up front. You just put in your pre-order. When it comes in stock, they charge you. And there are some other retailers who do that as well. So that's kind of a non-starter if you can't pay up front, if you don't want to pay up front. If you're on some sort of ethical crusade against paying up front, like just stop watching this video and just wait for retailers to put them up. The second question is, are you going to go all in? And this comes down to the concept that the more you order direct, the bigger the discount is when compared to ordering from a retailer. So if you're going to order more figures, it makes more sense to order them up front from Four Horsemen during the pre-order window. If not, it might be a little bit of a closer price range, especially if you are on like the West Coast or something, to just order and just wait for a retailer. Another one that is going to pretty much lock you into a direct pre-order is, do you want the Horseman 2-pack? If you want that 2-pack, this is the only way to get it. Retailers will not have the 2-pack. Yes, you'll be able to order both of those figures, but they're not going to come in that special 2-pack treatment like they will here. This is essentially the one exclusive piece from this wave. This is an interesting one. How quickly do you want your figures? If you like to have them in hand early, if maybe you're thinking of getting some extras to sell, oftentimes before the retailers ship them, the supply is pretty low and you can make a little more money off of them, or you could actually, if you're just going to sell them for retail price, you can, get a little bit of extra cash or make some money back on those things. But if you are going to want them early, you definitely want to order direct. The Four Horsemen have street dates for the retailers, which are after they ship out. So once the last shipments go out direct from them, then they say, okay, retailers, you can start shipping your stuff out now. So if you want them first, order direct. And the final two questions have to do with your location and how storehorseman.com treats your cart as you are checking out in terms of tax and shipping. And so you're going to want to play around with your cart and see how much things cost here, because a lot of different websites are different. So one store like Big Bad Toy Store probably charges tax in every state that has sales tax, and some smaller shops might not charge tax in any states because they just don't have hit a certain threshold of volume of sales in those states. So it all depends on the shop. Usually, I think bigger states, they hit those thresholds because the sales are bigger in the larger states, or potentially if you live in the same state as the store, like Four Horsemen's in New Jersey. So if you live in New Jersey, and I'm not sure if there's sales tax in New Jersey, but you would have to pay the sales tax there, for example. But anyway, that's the first question. Do you have to pay tax in your state? Throw some stuff in your cart, figure that out, see how much it cuts into the savings, and let that help you determine whether or not you want to order direct or wait for the retailers to put their stuff up. And the second one is the same deal, essentially, and that is, how high is shipping to you? I live in Boston, so the shipping is really low. Like an all-in order is like $20 for me. But I was talking to some people who live in Washington State, because these orders can be really big and heavy, and going all the way across the country is very expensive. It's calculated based on the U.S. Postal Service or the FedEx or whichever company it is, it's calculated. So you're going to want to do that research. One of the more extreme examples within the continental U.S. is Seattle, and Seattle being quite far away. It's probably the furthest postal zone away from New Jersey within the U.S. And they also have a really high sales tax in Seattle. It's like 10.25% tax. You're talking about the $560 plus $41.25 shipping and $61.63 tax, which comes to $662.88 compared to my $580, I think it is. It's like $585 or something like that to ship it to Boston. That is still close to $100 less than the retailer price. But if you look at ordering just like three figures going to Seattle would be $143.16, $18 shipping and $13 tax. So you're talking $7 less than ordering from a retailer if you just order three standard $37/$50 figures, like the first figures I showed, like those four standard figures. If you order three of those, it's essentially the same price. And you can find retailers who don't charge shipping, don't charge tax, and who don't charge up front. So you could potentially just have that beautiful scenario where you're ordering, don't have to pay now. You don't have to like sit your money for a year and a half and wait for the stuff to ship. There is that possibility that depending on where you live, it might make financial sense to order from a retailer. But for the most part, I do recommend ordering direct. And so hopefully that little checklist helps you make your decision. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments and I'll answer them as best I can. I know that this isn't a comprehensive breakdown of the wave. I didn't do the individual figures, but I wanted to get something out there to help you guys make a decision on this pre-order. And as far as my own pre-order, I've not placed it yet. I'm probably going to place it Friday after I get paid. And I'm not going to get really complex with this one this year because here's the deal. Every time I place a pre-order, I always like order extras of things. And then some of the things I just order one of. And it's really hard to tell that far in advance, like really what I'm going to want. I think I know, like right now, I think I know that I would want like a couple extra Uxox. I would want a couple extra Terpiculi. I would want a couple extra of Maxilius. And like certain things that I would know and I'd want like 3 or 4 of, and then I would be only buying one of other ones. But honestly, I think this time I'm just going to keep it real simple and just order 2 all-ins. That way I get 2 of everything and it kind of like evens the playing field in terms of trying to figure out what I'm going to want in hand. It is a tough thing trying to figure out what Bill of the future is going to want Bill of the past to pre-order for him. So I'm just going to do 2 of each and get 2 all-ins. And then when the time comes, if I have extras, I can sell them or trade them and get the figures I want. So yeah, I'm just going to do 2 of each, 2 all-ins, and call it a day. And I'm curious to hear how other people are approaching the pre-orders, especially if you're like a veteran collector and you've been around for a while and you have advice for newbies who are going to maybe be jumping in on this as their first pre-order for Mythic Legions. I know it's been growing quite a bit lately, so throw that in the comments below. And if you are new, let me know if this video was helpful. Let me know what you're ordering. And until next time, may the force be with you.